Hello, everyone, and welcome to Developing Palates. I am Aaron Loomis, and I have with me June Liu. Hey, June.
How's it going?
Good. How about yourself?
Good. Smoking a cigar. I think the rain's coming in, but hopefully it doesn't rain on me when I'm smoking.
Yep. So today we are going to be chatting about the Southern Draw QuickDraw Connecticut in the Petit Corona size. So the size is 4.5 inches by 44 ring gauge. This cigar is out of Tabacalera Fernandez in Nicaragua. It's carrying a Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper. The binder is listed as Nicaragua from Ometepe, and the filler is Nicaragua as well, and that's listed as Esteli and Condega. This price point is listed as like between $5 and $6, and I haven't seen an official price for this Vitola, and it was just released this month here in April. So this is a brand new cigar that just came out. So let's get into the pre-light experience. What was your experience like, June?
Um, so, uh, Kind of typical of most Connecticut wrappers I've seen. It's a pretty fragile, light brown kind of a wrapper. So
Mm-hmm.
nothing too exciting. But I did like the flair of the pigtail in the enclosed foot.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was, stuff like that always gives it that extra oomph of a nice presentation.
Right.
Um, but in terms of the roll and feeling the roll and all that, no soft spot, bangs well pressed, uh, seems fairly invisible. In other words, it felt like a really good constructed cigar that we all know that typically out of AJ's factory, it's pretty much 99.9% is fantastic that I've had anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a pre-light experience. Not much to it. Just the wrapper kind of smelled like a lot of barnyard cedar. Uh, and then during the cold draw, just kind of, a lot of cedar, kind of like that sawdust, uh, dry cardboard sort of a note. So nothing too much that's noteworthy.
Right.
What about you?
Yeah, like you said about the color, and I kind of get described as like a dark yellow, light brown. So kind of what typical Connecticut's like. So wrapper was super smooth, like you talk about delicate wrapper. If you look at the foot where the kind of the wrapper leaf is kind of folded over, you could really see how thin it is because you could see a little in it. It's kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but it was kind of coming up a little bit, so you can kind of see the thickness of the wrapper, which is quite thin.
Hmm.
Um, Construction was looked top notch. You could see the seams, but they were tightly wrapped. You had that little bit of a twist at the head. Um, and then for me, I didn't get much of any aroma off of the wrapper itself, but from the foot, I got like a tobacco sweetness. Um, and on the pre-light draw, I got it was pretty distinctive leather flavor, and then a little bit of a tingle on my lips from some spice. But that was about it. All right, let's get into flavor now. So first third through last third, kind of take me through your experience.
Sure. So first third was actually the favorite part of the cigar for me. Throughout the entire kind of flavor profile, I got a lot of this. I just keep thinking this is a sweet and spicy sort of a core flavor.
Hmm.
So when I first lit it up, it was like a generic, sugar and spice. But kind of smoking through the first half inch or so, I got a lot of different notes. The cigar really woke up. I got a lot of, in general, within the first and second third, got a lot of the caramelized sugar.
Hmm.
In this first third, I got pockets of this. The only way I could describe it is like a rich butter note,
Hmm.
which I don't taste in a lot of cigars in general, but it was really a unique, welcoming note for me. There's a slight bitterness in the beginning, and within the slight bitterness more within the first and second third.
Hmm.
Coffee, cedar, but this has quite a bit of spice for me. Got a lot of black pepper spice, and as the cigar built, as the cigar started burning through, that black pepper spice just got more and more intense as it went through. So in terms of strength and body, medium, solid mediums at both ends of the spectrum. So kind of going into talking more about the second third, still a lot of caramelized sugar. Still, the bitterness kind of started to creep up a bit more towards the second part of the second third.
Mm-hmm.
And by the last third, that bitterness was so strong and so prominent that I felt like it kind of killed the other flavors,
Right.
and the other nuances. So, you know, the second third for the most part was still good, kind of mimicking the first third. But by the last third, that bitterness just absolutely killed it. And all I really tasted truly was that bitterness, black pepper spice, and cedar. But you know, I'm not really sure if the bitterness is a something that could age out. I'm typically not the type to age Connecticut wrappers or Connecticut, cigars in general.
Right.
But yeah, that's. I'm just hoping that it age well, because if the cigar at some point could smoke like the first third, especially,
Right.
I think it'd be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. So for me, what I always find interesting is with the cigars that have that kind of folded over foot is what that first draw or a couple draws are going to be like, because you're getting so much wrapper in there.
Mm.
So this one was like, lit it up, and I just got a ton of cinnamon from that first draw, which anytime I can get cinnamon in a cigar, I'm a happy guy. But I mean, that kind of faded back, once you get right past that first draw or two. But after that, spicy cedar, still got cinnamon, but it was dialed back a little bit. And then what I found that kind of happened in and out of the cigar for the entire length was that at times the smoke was drying on my palate. So it would kind of go in and out of being dry and then not so dry. But that just goes, throughout various points. Retrohale was like sweet cream, a little bit of spiciness, not necessarily the cinnamon, but kind of just a generalized spice. And then pretty much wood, cream, and cinnamon was kind of how the first third went, and it was really good. I really enjoyed the first third. Second third, a little bit more pepper as it started, and then a little bit of bitterness came in, but it wasn't a bad bitterness. It was just like it was kind of balancing out kind of the cream and the pepper. So it was a good mix of how everything was working together. But as the third went along, the bitterness picked up for me, and then weirdly enough, it kind of dropped back a little bit as the third went along. But a lot more of the same stuff with the cream, and then it got a little oaky in the flavor. So oak, wood, cream, bitterness. That's kind of how it went. First third was like just a hair under medium, and then the second third finally reached the right to the medium, a true medium, what I would consider. Final third, the bitterness just came in, and it really overtook pretty much everything. I tried to do a purge. It didn't really do much. I mean, I did get some charred wood flavors after that, but the bitterness was still in there, and then it pretty much just took over again, and then I couldn't shake it after that. So kind of ended on a down note. I wasn't, that it was just kind of killing it for me there. But yeah, first third best, second third second best, final third not as great.
Yeah.
So.
My experience definitely mimics that, and that's a good point on the smoke in terms of mouthfeel. Like I totally agree that it's one of those smokes that dries out your palate.
Yeah.
More so than it wets it. Like I found myself drinking quite a bit of water and reaching for water during smoking this.
Yeah, I think you definitely have to drink something. If you're someone that likes to not have anything, it's probably not going to work with a cigar. You have to have something to drink.
Yeah.
All right. So performance-wise, what was your experience like?
Absolutely fantastic. I think, bar none, I could probably say within all AJ cigars that I smoked, meaning cigars rolled out of AJ's factory.
Right.
I probably only had like one out of 1,000 or 100 that actually did it draw and burn well.
Mm-hmm.
So this is no other So it was exactly the same as that. So in terms of burn, razor sharp burn, strong ash, and every time the ash did fall off, it was me doing it as compared to just falling off by itself.
Right.
The draw was perfect. So absolutely no complaints. I mean, it's basically the cream of the crop in terms of construction, in my opinion.
Yep. Yeah, I had a similar experience to you. Burn was the best, the best a cigar could burn. I mean, um, the burn line was razor sharp the entire way. Ash held on, like you said, inch chunks or longer. Didn't drop off unless you were tapping it off. Um, I would say that this is, I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is what all cigars should burn like. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then in regards to draw, it was just slightly tighter than I prefer, but that's just kind of nitpicking. But the slightly tighter draw for me didn't have any effect over the experience. It was just something I noticed, but otherwise it was spot on. All right, so overall, what do you think of this cigar?
Um, I think within kind of all this new wave of Connecticut cigars that's coming out,
Hmm.
I think that this is a pretty strong contender in the midst of it all. Um, I feel like the samples that we got, or let's just speak for my sample, um, it perhaps felt a little rushed. I know that when we first got the cigars, it was a little soft, it was a little spongy, but I don't know if that had anything to do with the buildup of the bitterness.
Hmm.
Um, I would say if the cigar didn't have any bitterness, not have any bitterness, not have the amplified bitterness, it'll be really good cigar. I rated this overall a good score out of our 7 categories.
Hmm.
Um, so when I reflect on that, so basically going first third good, second third overall good, and last third average. And what really saved this was my construction rating of just being perfect burn and perfect draw.
Hmm.
So if this is just pure flavors, it's interesting because I don't know if I talked about it on this on our website and our show, but I went to AJ's factory like about a month ago,
Hmm.
and smoking each of the burritos of the different leaves. Like for instance, I smoked Ometempe, and by itself, it's incredibly sweet.
Hmm.
And I smoked like Estelio Hero and Condega, and all this stuff. So when I was smoking the actual entire cigar, I was thinking about, well, I wonder if his leaves that he's using is actually from AJ's factory, aside from
Right.
the Ecuadorian Connecticut.
Hmm.
I highly doubt that's AJ's. So I was trying to taste all that stuff, and it actually made me think about when I smoked the New World Connecticut.
Hmm.
The New World Connecticut, I felt like it was just way too sweet. Like it was good and it was a good morning cigar, and I felt like especially with the black cup of coffee, it'll really kill a lot of that over sweetness.
Hmm.
Whereas this, and I think about, well, most people smoking a Connecticut cigar, they were smoking in the morning, right? And I think it will definitely pair well with a good cup of, latte, cappuccino, or even black coffee. And I think it'll do the job just for that. I also think that it has enough body and strength that you could smoke it kind of any time of the day. You could just smoke 2, 3 of these.
Right.
But I guess to kind of bring it all together, within all the Connecticut rappers out there, I think this one's worth sampling.
Hmm.
Um, I am curious how that bitterness is going to work itself out, and hopefully it's a function of just more humidor time.
Right.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, the cigar started off really well in that first third. I really enjoyed it there, and I was hoping that kind of would go through the duration. But bitterness started creeping in the second third, so the enjoyment went down a little bit, and then the bitterness kind of just took over in the final third, which kind of put a damper on things. But I'm with you. I'm curious to see if some more humidor time will kind of tame that bitterness or not, or if that's just going to be kind of a staple of this blend. Um, I mean, the performance of this cigar was so good. Like, there's, you know, it's just something you don't have to worry about when you're smoking the cigar. You're really focusing on flavors because there's nothing else
Mhm.
that you need to really pay attention to with this
Yeah,
going on. So that's a
totally.
great aspect. Um, it's definitely a little more strength than kind of what the typical cigars are. But now, I mean, I think nowadays when we're talking about typical, we're not talking about what typical was 3 years ago. So typical of 3 years
Right.
ago was super mild
Mhm.
Connecticut's, and now normal for last couple years is, you know, more strength in the Connecticut.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's typical nowadays is kind of this kind of genre of, having a little bit more strength, a little bit more flavor in regards to the Connecticut. So,
Mm.
um, like you said, you could smoke it any time of day. I still think it would be something that's definitely approachable in the morning, but I think this would go really well with coffee. What I'd be interested to see is how it works with maybe some different variations on coffee. So, um, doing coffee straight black or with some cream to
Yeah.
see kind of how it works in combination with, like, in the first third there was a lot of creaminess for me. So
Mhm.
would you want black coffee there to bring in some of the normal bitterness that you might get from a black cup of coffee to see how those two mix? And then when the bitterness kind of starts coming in that second, third, and final third, would coffee with cream kind of mellow that out a little bit? And what does that kind of pairing look like? Or would you reverse it and you want creamy with the cream and bitterness with the bitterness? I don't know if might be overload. So, but I think that would be something interesting to see.
Yeah. And
Go ahead.
I was gonna say on the topic of coffee for I guess more of the non-Keurig cup coffee enthusiasts out there.
Mhm.
You know, I drink most of my coffee black.
Right.
Um, and when I think about how this cigar will pair with different regions of coffee beans, right? Like, for instance, would it pair better with a lot of the African beans that are more vibrant and acidic?
Hmm.
Or would it pair better well with some of the Central American stuff where there's more of an earthy, chocolatey note to it?
Hmm.
Or you could just go to Asia, Southeast Asia, go Indonesian pea berry, and it's completely different, right? So, but I think overall, like I would say any coffee will probably work because any coffee is going to cut down that bitterness.
Right.
So, as a matter of fact, I would probably prefer to smoke this one with coffee just to get rid of some of that bitterness.
Right. Yeah, and the price point on this, it's set up to work with the whole quick draw line. So and that line is all set up to be in the kind of the $5 to $6 range. So I think for that price, it's definitely worthwhile grabbing some and giving them a shot. So I mean that doesn't factor into our scores or anything like that, but just kind of a note is the price point on these are pretty good. So. So in regards to scores for this, I gave this cigar a 6.13, and you gave it a 7.0, Jiunn. So how do you think the scoring worked out for your experience with the cigar?
Um, I think scoring this guy is more about flavor and construction, like I was talking about earlier.
Hmm.
Um, just the fact that it's rolls so great and it performs so well on a technical scale, I guess, is what gave that bump in the score.
Right.
But if I were to purely talk about flavor, then I think it's a little too generous of my score. So
Yeah.
I definitely factor in construction on this guy.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's part of the scoring system is, I mean, it's not weighted as heavily as flavor, but it does contribute some points. So
Mhm.
when you hit the top on, burn and draw, then it's going to help out a little bit. So if better, some better flavored cigars have poor construction, that's going to knock those down a little bit. So but it's part of the combination of the score. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think for my score, 6.13 is probably a fair score for this. The flavor was good first third and half, and then it kind of went downhill. But construction was top notch. So I think it is a true reflection of the experience. And for me, I still got a fair amount of smoking time out of it for being a smaller cigar. So it wasn't like it was
Yeah.
burning down real fast. Like I mean, some Connecticut's seem to be like the leaves are pretty dry as well, so it's like a quick burn. But this
Huh.
didn't, and this wasn't that like
What
that
was
for me.
your? Did you by any chance clock your time?
I didn't clock it, but I'm gonna
Oh,
say I probably got an hour and a half out of it.
Yeah, I actually clock all my cigars that we review,
Right.
and I got 77 minutes out of this thing.
Yeah.
I was surprised. After I smoked it, I was like, "Oh crap!" Like, that's a long time for a short Corona.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
All right. So, any other final thoughts on this?
no, I think this one is worthwhile to check out. It's not your old school Connecticut. This is a new wave, a part of the new wave of Connecticut's that has more strength and more body and more, you know, more spice. So to that extent, what we're checking out and stacking up against, you know, all the other new ones out there.
Yep. Yeah, this is another good offering from Robert Holt at Southern Draw. So, you know, and I like that, you know, the sizes he's coming out with on these things. So, and, you know, he's got some connoisseur sizes in there, along with some of his other lines that have more traditional nowadays sizes where you have some Toros and things like that. So,
Yeah.
you know, a good mix of Vitolas here. So that's great. All right. Well, thank you for joining us, guys. If you're catching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to us and also hit the website if you want to see the full written review. Be sure to follow us on all the social media sites, Twitter, Facebook, Google Plus, Instagram. We're everywhere. So, like I said, thank you for joining us. Thank you again, Jiunn, and we will catch everybody on the next recap.
Thanks, guys.